It's the weekend, and that means we've got new metal albums to listen to, and I'm bringing you my top 5, plus, as always, my favorite album art of the week. But before we do my top 5, let's talk about some of the big albums that came out today. Now, we all knew we were getting a new In Flames record today, but what I didn't know caught me completely off guard this morning is we got a new Lamb of God collaboration with Kreator called State of Unrest. I was not expecting that, and it is awesome. Shout out to Lamb of God for working with the OGs. This song rules. And then, of course, as I said, we got a new album from the melodic death metal OGs themselves, In Flames. It's called Foregone. If you didn't know, I guess you've been living somewhere else. You know what it is. Right after I upload this episode, I'll be working on the written review for Metal Digest. All of my articles are linked in the description. You can check that out. And then lastly, before we do the top 5, we've got a new album from Distant called Heritage. You know these deathcore dudes. It requires no introduction. Now let's do the top 5. Coming in at number 5, we've got Saconia, or is it Sasonia? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Text will be on the screen, and as always, the links to all the band's Bandcamp will be in the description. The name of this album is Animal Chapters. This is some progressive metal, and for the first time in the history of this show, I'm picking an instrumental band. I always avoid instrumentals for these because we all like grunting vocals, right? But this is so good, it really blew me away. It's like if Polyphia was really heavy and not so much into the R&B, and they don't really show off as much as Polyphia. There's a lot more headbanging riffs on this and not quite as many solos, but when the solos are there, they are tasty. So I love this. Check it out. And for number 4, I'm once again doing something I don't normally do. I'm picking an album that I don't think is heavy. I always go for the heaviest stuff. This is Heavy Metal Philosophy after all. I want a headbang. I want some growls and some screams and some chugging riffs. But this album is so pretty and it's such good music. It really stood out and I gotta pick it. Number 4 is Clone with Meanwhile. This is progressive metal and I want you to think like Carnival meets the ocean. If you're familiar with the ocean, you know what I mean when I say it's metal that isn't heavy. This is really chill music, but it's so well written, it's so clever, and it's got such great vibes, plus some cool riffs in there. That's why it's number 4 this week. Check out Clone Meanwhile. All right, now let's get heavy. Coming in at number 3, I got Veilcast with Precipice. This is sludge metal, and I picked this, first of all, because I love sludge metal, and I love the rhythmic sensibility of it, but this one stood out to me because the vocals have a very slight influence of hardcore in the way they're delivered. I like that. It makes it special. Check this one out. Coming in at number 2, we got Ecolapse. The name of the album is Dying with the Wolves. This is like a really thrashy trad metal. I normally don't like trad metal, but this one doesn't have trad metal vocals, just trad metal guitars, but it's thrashy. It's really heavy. It's got some real stank riffs on it, and the vocals are super harsh. So you got a modern vocalist over an OG band with a cool groove. It's super heavy. Need I say more? Now, before we get to number 1, let me just say, if you're new here and you love metal the way that I love metal, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe. If you like any of these bands, hit like, and YouTube will show this to more people like you, which helps the bands out and me. Thank you so much. Now let's do number 1. Coming in at number 1, got Carnisus. Okay, here we go. Let me try this. Visions of Infinihility. Why'd y'all name this that? Regardless, the album art's cool with the eyeball spilling into the fountain, and the music rules. When I first started spinning this one, I gotta admit, I was not gonna like it. The vocals just weren't doing it for me at first. But thankfully, I gave it a chance past that first song, and holy shit, this album rips. The guitars on this are crazy. And then later, I did come to love the vocals with the fast delivery. It's just a unique voice that I wasn't expecting. It totally won me over, and that's how good it is, because I wanted to hate it at first, and after giving it a chance and listening to it, it became my number 1. This is a killer album that you should check out, but we're not done yet. We still got to do the album art of the week. For the album art of the week, I'm going with Stormo, Endocannibalism. This is a little unusual. At first, this art wouldn't have done it for me. But when I was looking through all the art and I noticed that the album title is Endocannibalism, and I'm looking at this art, it looks like there's this tribal figure in the foreground. But then I was like, what's this orange stuff coming out? And I zoomed in and I'm like, maybe that's not a person. And I couldn't tell what this is. It's definitely something indigenous happening out in nature, but I can't tell. Is this a person that's in an awkward position and their face is hidden? Or is this some sort of totem? I can't tell. And I kept looking through all the other album art, trying to pick the album art of the week, and I just kept coming back to this. What is that? And when I kept coming back to it, and I kept coming back to it, that's when I knew. This is the album art that's grabbing me this week. This is the album art of the week. Now, before we close, let's talk about this week's news in metal. And this week, the big thing that's going on is Ronnie Radke is beefing with somebody new. Now it's that Fantano critic guy. He's real big on YouTube. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disrespect you by mispronouncing your name. I just don't listen to other critics because I don't want it to influence my work as a critic for Metal Digest. So that's the only reason why. I'm not trying to be some high and mighty. I've never heard of you. I know you're a super big YouTuber, and I know you and Ronnie are beefing, and it's super funny. And I'm going to have something to say about that on Tuesday's podcast. So make sure you check in on Tuesday. And not only because that's what I'm going to talk about, but also because that's episode 100 of Heavy Metal Philosophy. Big milestone for us. Thank you so much to everybody that's been here. I really appreciate it, especially you OGs out there. Thank you so much. And speaking of the podcast, you can click right here and check out my conversation that I had with Lindsay, who is also a metalhead, also a journalist, and she's a historian. You should check out her channel. You should check out my channel. You should put on a playlist and help me out because I'm this close to getting over the edge. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.